Okay. Hey, well, we have a very exciting guest for you today, Caleb. And I can't pronounce his last name. How do you say it?
My last name is Guilliams, and I always tell people
Oh,
channel the inner guacamole.
oh,
Williams.
it's kind of like Williams, but Williams.
That's right.
Okay, there we go. All right, we got it. Yeah, so Caleb is amazing. At 19, he took over the investment division of, you say it was Community First Bank,
Yep.
and he realized running that 98% of Americans, even ones that are following what they're supposed to do and putting money aside and doing this and that and the other, are really going to fail at becoming financially independent or able to achieve retirement in the way that they want. So he figured there's got to be a better way. He went out there, he started traveling, researching, talking to experts, learning, figuring this out for himself. And now he's created his own company that has both an investment arm and a coaching arm. And he's passionate about trying to help people figure out how to actually achieve their goals in financial investing. And I have to say, Caleb, I fully agree with you. I actually didn't know about you before doing these interviews, but I had started on this journey myself a year ago and realized after interviewing lots of experts and bringing them to my group, which is Financial Ninjas, and I was like, oh my God, these guys, so many of these people, like the
Yeah.
traditional ones with the traditional models, I'm like, you could never retire on that. They're making 4%. I'm like, that's barely going to cover inflation. Like the models weren't working. I was dealing with my mother who's just retiring, and I was having her interview with these different people, and they were running her numbers through this stuff. And I was just shocked at how poor it was. The only reason I knew it was because I'd actually gone out and discovered all these other things and experts where you could make much higher interest rates on your money in things that were even more secure than what these financial advisors were telling you to do. So um, it there's so much available now. There's so much new information, I think, which is why it's so important for people to get educated themselves, which is what we're doing. And this is what Caleb has come here to talk with us about, is the principles of how he looks at this and sees things. And we're really excited to have him join us. And make sure you stay through. We're going to talk about some principles to start with. And then he's also going to walk us through like a really practical example, something you can just jump on there and do yourself, or you can do with us as we do this together. Okay. All
I love
right,
it. Hey,
Caleb.
Faye, thank you so much. I have a ton of respect for who you are, and it's just an honor to be a part of this summit. And so, thank you. I'm excited to give, and you're gonna see real quickly. This is a huge passion of mine, mainly because of this. Is I feel like so many people are unable to live intentionally, and I'm not gonna say that money is the sole reason because it's not. But money is a great tool that is working against so many people. But when used well, people can live intentionally, and so we like to say that we at Better Wealth are unlocking people so that they can live more intentionally, and that looks different for each person. But that's what I get so fired up about, and why I wake up every morning, because I just am thrilled to see that um, realized in people's lives.
Absolutely. And I mean, when you're saying intentionally, and the way I see it is freedom.
Yeah,
The ability to say, okay, well, how can I? Oftentimes, our financial situation can cause all kinds of other issues in our lives. Maybe we have to stay at a job where we're, being harassed, or we're,
yep,
suffering discrimination, or we're dealing with all kinds of negative
yep,
impacts of not having financial independence.
right,
So, this is why to me I'm so passionate about it. Whether we call it like living intentionally, freedom, independence, these are all the characteristics that we're
yep,
looking for when we're learning how to manage our money. It's not just about the money,
that's
it's
right,
because the money is a tool to live
that's
our
right,
lives.
yep.
So, all right, you're going to share with us a little bit about I gave you a little touch of Caleb's story, but
It
he's still so young. The story isn't that long yet, but it's an amazing one.
Yeah, Faith, a lot of times when people see me or when I get to speak, people, I think, have, like, this 10 minutes of horror, and it goes a little bit like this, like, "How in the world am I supposed to learn anything from someone that can barely looks like they're even have their license to drive their car?" And what I always say is this is something that I'll probably live with a very long time, and this is not anything new for me. I actually grew up in the central Wisconsin. My parents are not entrepreneurs, are not even into money, but they taught me to be proactive. They taught me to work hard. And actually, I got my first job working at a chicken farm. Okay. I have a lot of respect for the chicken sandwich. And I have a lot of respect for all the work that goes into that. And I started making money and I started asking myself, like, what should I do with this money? And I read a book, The Richest Man in Babylon, which is a phenomenal read. And I started thinking, I started gaining some principles that I started applying in my own life, actually started trading, actually got into option trading and all these fun and exciting things. And I was so fascinated that, like, I love to work. I probably will always love to work. But the fact that our money are like, you know, people that can start working for us. It's just
Mhm.
it's a form of intentional living is another way to say it is the choice or the freedom to choose the life that you want to live. And it became very
Yes.
clear to
Yeah.
me at that chicken farm where I was one of the youngest people. I packed a lunch. I did certain things to even save money because I saw that as a saving my dollars so that they could work for me. And I saw a lot of my colleagues do the exact opposite. And so right there, I gained like this insight of like, "Well, I wonder why they're different." And then that's
Mhm.
what made me so fascinated with this whole money space. And I started reading a lot of books. And I thought getting a job at a bank would be a good idea if I want to learn more about business and money. And I got
Mhm.
a job
And
at,
that's an amazing insight to get so young, right? And that is that it made sense to you to save your money because you saw how the money could go to work for you.
yeah,
If you don't understand how the money can go to work for you and how the money can make money, then what's the point in saving? You might as well
right.
spend it. You might as well get that, more expensive car payment or, blow it on, this, that, or the other because what good is it going to do you in my pocket? That's what people say, who don't have that vision and who don't have the knowledge of how to actually invest that money. So that was an amazing insight that you got so young. And like you said, a lot of us didn't grow up with that, and we weren't taught to do that by our parents. We weren't trained to do that. So you already were far ahead of your time, and that's exciting.
And so what happened next was I got a job at a bank, and I was 17 years old. It was Community First Bank, and I worked in the teller line. And one thing that you may or may not know about me is I'm dyslexic, and so reading is really tough for me. I was also extremely short for my age, and so I was dealing with like any 17-year-old insecurities. But I started learning really quickly about number one, I love people, so you got to have that trustworthy conversations. But number two, I actually started learning how to handle money and to see a lot of people were in financial ruin. They looked good on the outside, but their bank accounts were almost nothing. And so I started thinking like, wow, like I'm 17 years old and have more money than a lot of people at the bank that are like I thought were doing really well. And then being young and wanting to learn a lot, I got offered a lot of different jobs because I found ways to network in our community. And so I went to the CEO of the bank and I just said, I want to learn how money works. I would love to work in our investment department. And so I actually started working in our investment department at the age of 18 as an investment assistant. I started to do a little bit of marketing, and that was an amazing time. And then the guy that was running our investment department at the time took another job. And at 19 years old, I became one of the youngest people in the country to take on that massive responsibility of taking over the corner office of Community First Bank. And I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, and I'm a big fan of this concept of start with why. And I will, number one, tell you that I was so underqualified for the position, but I truly cared about helping people. And the CEO, who's like a second father to me, he took me under his wing and said, Caleb, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I didn't know a
Mhm.
ton about money, to be quite frank, but I did know one of the most important things. I knew that people, the only reason they cared about money was it was the key that could help them unlock what they wanted. And so I got
Mhm.
really clear on like why, like understanding our clients' why. and we didn't lose a single client. And through that time, I built a great relationship with so many people at the bank and so many of their clients. But I also started learning how money works, and I also didn't have a direct mentor to help me be just a average financial advisor. Like I started asking questions because I saw that majority of people were broken. They had no control. They had no knowledge. They had no understanding of how taxes work. They didn't have any understanding about retirement and how the income works. And I'm like, why are you even doing this in the first place? And everyone would say, well, that's just what I've been told to do.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
it's starting.
I've seen that with people I know as well. I mean, they go to a financial advisor and they tell them to put it in this, and then they come to me, they're like, I don't know what happened to my money, and I've been paying it all out in fees, and it's really sad. It's heartbreaking.
I think the number one heartbreaking thing that I saw is so many people are devaluing themselves in the way that they're spending their time and money. And they wouldn't, it's like, that's not even a word, devalue, but it's like, if we are our greatest asset, in other words, like you are the number one derivative that helps everything in your life, good or bad. And so if you are the one bringing in the money, if you're like the reason why things are happening, and so often we're investing or spending or utilizing our money and we're putting ourselves back, we're not devaluing who we are. And I saw that firsthand, and I saw that people like aren't even getting it. Like you have
Mhm.
business owners that are doing amazing things, and the way that they're handling their money, it's putting them more at risk, and it's putting them more at the
Yeah.
mercy of the bank.
I know, and I see it all the time. I mean, I'm a corporate attorney, so I have clients, and I know their situations, I know their business finances, taxes, et cetera. And oftentimes I'm trying to push them, we need to get you to a personal tax advisor, and this, and it can be so hard to get them to do those things. I mean, I'm their business attorney, I'm not their personal tax advisor and accountant, but I know and I see how much they need this. So I'm like,
Yeah,
let's do it. And it's not until they get that $400,000 tax bill
I know.
that I hear from them, and they're like, okay, maybe I need to do this.
Yeah. And that's it's so funny
So,
because that's one of the things that I've been so fascinated with is taxation and how we can be more efficient with that. And so
mm,
ultimately that just opened my eyes to all the mistruths, but then the truths out there, and which really led me to starting my own practice because I'm 21 years old at the time, and I'm like, people need to know this, what I'm learning, and yet I'm stuck in a place where I loved, but I could only help people if they came to me. And so,
yeah,
21 years old, started Better Wealth, and we've been running ever since. And just really using this thing called Google, the internet, and helping people better get coached, better educate, and then ultimately, if they need help with their money, help them there,
help
and
them actually
hopefully,
make the investments and
yes,
stuff like
and
that.
and
Yeah,
and just help people take back more control and more responsibility of their life. That's what our whole company's all about. And so it's a pleasure being here. I'm an open book, and I'm really excited to be sharing some insights that with your audience.
that's awesome. Okay, well, I want to jump in. I mean, you have an amazing story, and I love your passion. And I love the fact that, and this is what I found on my journey when I started looking at this, I was like, oh my God, the traditional stuff's not working. So what is? Let's get out there and figure that out. Let's learn what the secrets are. If you want to learn more about this, we'll talk about that at the end. But I want to jump in quickly, and Caleb is going to share with us some of the principles of wealth, and then we're going to look through, and he's going to explain to us how that can be simple and how we can take it to like a really advanced level.
Yeah.
So go for it.
The common
Let's
question I'll
get
get is,
started.
Caleb, what's the best investment I should be doing? How do I get rich and all these things? And I take a step back and say, hey, we got to understand the foundation, which I'm going to share with you. And then we can talk about different strategies. And so the number one thing that we're going to talk about that every single person watching this right now needs to understand is the importance of clarity. And clarity is essentially, if you don't know where you want to go, any road will get you there. So we
Right.
could, if
I,
you
I
don't have
call it
clarity,
I call it the win with money. I say you need to know what your end goal is. What's your win? Most
right?
people, they don't ever think about money in that term.
Right. And a majority of people can't articulate why their why. And so one of the questions that we ask is, if money wasn't an issue, like let's take money off the table. You have one life. What do you want to spend your life doing? Like what would bring you the most fulfillment? And so often, Faith, this is the first time we're asking people a question that I think should be asked in first grade and on throughout college, because it's you're never going to get just a definite answer, but it's a constant journey of how to use your one life well. And we started getting deeper than just like, oh, I want to be able to retire at 65. Like, I don't care right now about retirement at 65. I care about like why that's even important, and using your one life. And then we talk about ROR, and if you're in the financial world, ROR stands for rate of return. Okay, it could be return on result, or return on risk or something. But we've really gotten clear that ROR for us is return on result, which essentially means what do you want, and then we have to make sure that whatever we spend our time and money doing gets us that thing. And so that alone has opened so many people's eyes, because we could talk about all the other principles and strategies, but if you don't have clarity on where you're going, and it doesn't matter, and we could be spending 5 years doing amazing things, and you could realize that you're in the wrong place. So, number 1, get clarity on what you actually want. What would you do if money wasn't an issue? Make your ROR statement, because that makes us align. So that's principle number
Yeah.
1, and those are some practical things that you can do right now to really check your heart and make sure that you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, and
Um,
I spoke about this on a webinar I did for this group, which is, figuring out what's your number. What's your number? What's the number that if you hit that number, you've got that number, you don't really need to work again for the rest of your life, and it's way less than most people think it is if it's invested in the right things. So like figure out what your number is. That's what's
right,
your goal.
and what I would say is, yes, and figure out why you even came up with that number. So it's like, yes, figure out your number, which is an incredible exercise, and why are we even coming up with that number? You know what I'm saying? And I've seen people go through exercise like, "Hey, I wanna make $1,000,000 a year." Well, you and I both know this. It's like, okay, what do you actually wanna do? Because you could probably live with $300,000 and live that life, but
Yeah.
it's again, you gotta do the work
Yeah,
first.
they just have this kind of magical thinking,
Yeah,
vision board, whatever it is, like, oh my God, I haven't lived that because somebody's told them that's what they should want. They haven't
yeah,
sat down and said, how do I feel comfortable?
yeah,
What works for me? So
yeah.
yeah. So all right. So let's
So
talk about this.
principle number 2 is not the most exciting, but I'm telling you, it's one of the most powerful things that you can do. It's creating efficiency in what's currently going on. And so often, let's say you know where you wanna go, you know your number, you know what you're trying to seek, and number 2, you're like a car that has 1 foot on the gas and 1 foot on the brake. And if you've ever done that, which I have once when I was started to learn to drive, it was a miserable experience, and yet so many people are being inefficient with their financial lives. And so
Yeah.
what are the 3 categories that we look at? We look at cash flow, we look at your assets, and we look at your debts. Cash flow makes the world go round. This is money coming in. Okay. Ultimately, the good kind of investments create either future cash flow or cash flow now and into the future. And so we want to optimize that and say, okay, can we increase it? Because majority of people watching me right now can make more money. But then the next thing is, where are areas that are taking away from your cash flow?
Yeah,
Where
because
where the
they always used to say, a dollar saved is a dollar earned. Boy, there's nowhere that is more true than in taxes.
right,
So I try
right.
to tell my clients they're making all this money and they're like, woohoo, I'm making $1 million a month or whatever. And I look at what they're paying in taxes because they have no tax efficiency set up. So
Yep,
they're paying out massive amounts. I'm like, well, that's not doing you any good. That's the
that's right.
first thing we get to fix, right? And then immediately you're making more money.
100%. And that's actually one of the key elements to being more efficient is where's money leaving, and so for so many people, the money that they pay on taxes is their greatest loss of capital. And so we want to look at that, and there's a whole checklist that you can do is just like just start tracking your money. I promise you start tracking your money, you'll better control it because you'll be more on top of where things are going. And then real quickly, looking at your assets. An asset is anything of value, and it's asking the question, are these assets, is this real estate property, is this 401k, is this savings account, is this CD, is this actually getting me where I want to go? It's not, there's no such thing as a bad thing. It's just like, is this the best tool for you to be accomplishing what you want to accomplish? And
Right.
then
Or is it in the right place to actually be doing that, right? Because like at this point, I'm like, I'm not putting my money into a CD that's gonna make 2%, right? I'm already losing money in it because inflation is 3%. and yet I can't touch that for 2 years. Like,
Right.
how
So
is
that would be
that?
a
How is
form,
that efficient? How is that
right?
helpful?
That would be a form of when you go through that saying, highlighting that and say, why do I have X amount of money in something that is growing less than inflation that I have no control? You know, it's like that would, you and I both agree, that would be highlighted. And so often people realize for the very first time that they are investing their money where someone told them, and they realize for the first time that this is not actually getting them where they want to go, even if it's successful. Go back to the CD, like, okay, if the CD is successful, great. Where's that going to put you 10 years from now? So that's a great example. And then the third area in efficiency is debt. Now, people have this emotional feeling about debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. The definition of that good versus bad is good debt helps you put more money in your pocket. Bad debt does the exact opposite. There's a lot of people drowning in debt. There's other people that are their whole goal is to be debt free, and it's a form of efficiency. It's like not there's not you I can't say debt is bad. I can say
Yeah, and
debt
then there's other people that understand how to efficiently use debt
exactly.
to make more money, right? And
Exactly.
that's the arbitrage and the spread. So
Right.
you know, that's getting a little more complicated, but it's one of those things when you dig into it, you understand it's not all one way.
Exactly. And so whether it's cash flow, whether it's assets, or whether it's debts, there's a way of efficiency to look at, and it really goes back to, is this thing that I'm doing, is this helping me get closer? Going back to clarity, is this helping me get closer to where I want to go, or taking me away from that? And so that's principle number 2. And I'm telling you, if people just get clear and people just audit what's going on, you are going to be ahead of 98% of people, period. Because most people, number one, don't do the time to get clear, and number two, don't audit what's actually going on in their life.
Right. They don't, and then audit it and then go and then figure out, like, how do I do this better?
Yeah.
Right. And to some people that might seem, I know for me, I was like, oh God, I don't want to try to learn all this stuff and, all these different things. But, when I finally bit the bullet, jumped in and did it, um, there are, there are experts out there that can teach you to do it, that can help you learn how to do it. I started helping all my friends learn to see stuff a little bit more clearly, right? But you don't have to, like, when we're talking about efficiency and stuff like that, taxes, etc., there are experts out there that can help put those things in place for you.
That's right.
So once you just start focusing on it, focus
That's
your
right.
attention on it, it will start to grow. You'll start to
Yep.
meet those people, you'll start to be introduced to those people, and they can actually help you get the job done. So you don't have to feel like, oh, I got to learn it all myself and I got to figure it all out myself.
Yeah,
That's what
you don't have to go
experts
to
are
law
for.
school. You can work with
Right.
someone who understands. Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah. Okay, what's the next one?
The next one is consistency, and I'll just make this quick because I due to time, is consistency is this idea of doing something over time. And what I always say is, what are the 2 wealth forces that will actually help you create wealth? It's the 2 C's, compounding and control. Compounding is Albert Einstein, even though he didn't say it, he's quoted for saying that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. And what compound interest is it's just a function of money or matter growing over time. And you see this like exponential hockey stick growth because it's this growing on not only principal, what you've put in, but also the interest that was made on that principal. And so that's just a time value of money. A dollar today is worth way more over your lifetime than just a dollar when you apply compound interest. The other thing that we need to look at, and this is what Wall Street doesn't want you to know, this is what most financial advisors totally drop the ball on, is the second C, which is called control. And control is really powerful because if you are your greatest asset, especially Faith, you and I can very much relate to this. We have businesses, we have other things that are getting us a way greater rate of return than let's just say a CD, to be very conservative. We want control over our capital because if we control money, that creates that multiplication and that rate of return. And so what we try to teach our clients is we want to be consistent over time by not just understanding the value of lifetime growth, but we also want to be consistent with the value of control. And so often people are either sacrificing both of those, or they think that they need to choose between one or the other. And I'm telling you, if you're watching this and you believe that you have something bigger than a 2 or 3% rate of return, you have to understand that control is something that you need to be seeking. because if you don't have control, it might take you away from doing that thing that you need to do, or investing in yourself, or fulfilling, or helping somebody. And so the idea of C squared, compounding in control, is the third principle. And all I would say is start analyzing where you're putting your money in the context of long term and short term.
Yeah, and I like that's one of the things I really dug into too, was like
Yep.
looking at things like 401ks and different types of plans like that, and how people think, oh, well, I have to invest it in this, and my company only lets me put it into mutual funds, and things like that. And then you're losing control on it,
Yep.
instead of saying, wow, oh, I didn't even know I could do a self-directed one, and I can use the money in my self-directed 401k to invest in business or in real estate or in all kinds of other things that I can't do in the traditional, version of that. So yeah, there's lots of exciting things you can do about control, and ways that, and if you have control of your money and you haven't just turned it over to somebody else, where you can put it into investments that are going to make you a higher return.
That's right.
So that's the other exciting piece about educating yourself,
That's right.
right?
That's right. And the final principle is this: it's the principle of use. And we go back to the word stewardship, and we say, like, this is not just about using your money, but using your money, using your time, and also using your unique abilities to help you go back to the clarity piece, to help you live the life that you want. And so it's just finally like, once you get clear, once you do an audit through efficiency, once you're trying to maximize not only the compound growth but control, ultimately your need is using your time and money and abilities to help you best align with where you want to go. And I'm telling you, that is the foundation. Everything else that we do can be added or subtracted, but that's how we help people. Because if you don't have clarity, it doesn't matter how you're using, because you might be climbing up the wrong tree. But you could have clarity, but if you're not being efficient, we could talk about compounding your money, but if you're only compounding a fraction of what you should be because you're losing a ton through inefficiencies, it doesn't matter. And so these are kind of the foundations that we walk people through. And obviously we can go to the tool next, but I would love to hear your thoughts as it relates to those four principles.
Oh yeah, no, no, I think you're 100% right. That those are really what you have to look at, right? Because uh, like I said, clarity on your goal, efficiency, not just losing the money that you're all that hard work you've been earning, and then people doing it consistently, like saying, okay, I'm going to put this much aside every month, every year, et cetera, et cetera. And always like staying up with that, staying consistent on checking on it, and is this is
Yep.
in the right place, right? So I think those are really the critical principles, and however you want to call them, those are the principles we have to be looking
I love
at.
it. I love it.
And then so you have some, well, we want to look at this assessment
Yeah.
tool, but then you also have some more interesting and unique things that people can do. For instance, you wrote a book about that,
Yeah.
and so I'd like you to give maybe just a little taste for people, either people who are already more sophisticated
Yep.
or who want to get more sophisticated
Right.
about some of the exciting stuff that's out there that maybe they don't hear about every day.
Right.
So I'd love for you to just share a couple things on that as well.
So I wrote a book called The And Asset, and we're actually working on a movie this year as well. And it just goes to the way to pour gasoline on what we're doing is to understand how to properly use leverage. And The And Asset is a book that shows people how they can better save their money and also leverage that money at the same time, giving their dollar not just one job but multiple jobs. And as a result, if you can give a dollar more than one job, you can properly do a lot more. And so that's what my book is all about. It kind of gets a little bit more advanced, but I just went back to this concept of, okay, if we are your greatest asset, if we want to be efficient, where should we be saving our money? Where should we be trying to multiply our money? And this book just pretty much walks through a strategy that you can do that with. And what I would say is it's not for everybody. Probably only 3% of the people in this country could probably take advantage of it, because it's not a get rich quick scheme. But it's just a way to help people think, like, what are the wealthy doing? They're not necessarily using all their money; they're properly leveraging it. And so that's what my book's all about. And obviously, there's a whole lot more that I'm not going to go into. But I get really fired up about that because I personally save a lot of money into this a year, and it's just the foundation of what I'm building through the company, and I also do a lot of alternative investing as well. And the and asset strategy is the foundation that helps me build all those investments. And when we had a lot of uncertainty, I mean, we have 16 people on our team. Our payroll's pretty big. We had the control and liquidity of capital that allowed us to grow and thrive during a very uncertain time.
Wonderful. That's great. Okay, let's jump in and you're going to show us, you want to walk through something really practical so that, everybody has um, a clear takeaway. It's great that we talk about principles and we all need to dig into the principles, but somebody can be like, okay, well, what can I do right this minute? What can I do today that's going to help shift the game for
Yeah.
me? So,
100%. And this is, and again, it's like good for you, Caleb. I'm glad that you have a great story and that you get really fired up about principles and all this stuff. But like, what do I need to do? And I'm just going to share a quick story. I went to the doctor about a year ago, and I had nothing really wrong, but I wanted to optimize my life and my body. And so we just did an X-ray, and I saw for the first time what's actually going on with my spine and my body. And there was no selling, but it was so powerful for me because I actually saw what was going on, and I saw what optimal looked like, and I saw where I was at. And I just started thinking, I'm like, man, what if we could do that same thing with money?
mm,
No, I hate the sales culture of the business, that financial advising. And it's so often it's like we're pitching things, and it's like, wait, aren't we in the business of actually helping people? But if people don't know their problem, if people don't know what's actually going on right now, how can I tell you I'm going to help you be more efficient if I'm not seeking first to understand? So this tool that we're all going to go through, it's free. This tool will help you understand, get an X-ray, get a snapshot of where you're currently at. And
mm,
again, majority of people that go through don't like what they see, but if we don't understand where we're at currently, it's hard to know what we need to do. It's hard to know where we need to optimize efficiency. It's hard to know if we need to do certain strategies to give our dollars more than one job, because if you don't have a problem, or if you don't know that you have a problem, it doesn't matter. So if you go to my website, Better Wealth, there's this little assessment button. It also takes you to betterwealth.com/assess.
okay, I'm going to share my screen here so that everybody can walk through it with
Okay.
us and you can see us how to do it. And just like to talk about what he just said, I've literally I've sat in on all these financial advisement meetings with my mother, actually, while people are pitching her products, annuities, or this or that or the other. And when I go and read all the fine print afterwards, and I am like, but this isn't actually a really good deal. This isn't helpful. This doesn't do like, what we could do with something and your money isn't locked up, right?
Yeah.
So um, it's really tough. You cannot trust somebody else
Yep.
like that, even though they're supposed to have your best interest at heart, right? Oftentimes they're just selling something.
That's right.
And
That's
if
right.
you haven't gone through this yourself, I teach this to my clients about lawyers. I'm like, if you don't understand what's going on yourself, how can you assess if this lawyer is any good or not?
Yep.
You've got to know, it's your responsibility.
That's
So
right.
let's take a look at this and
So
see.
if you can scroll down a little bit, I want to walk through a few things before we type in the numbers. So the first thing that I want to show is this very poor drawing of my cash flow consumed and saved. And the lesson is this: money only goes two
Should I
places.
keep
Oh, no, no,
scrolling
no, sorry.
down?
Keep going up. Keep going up. Sorry. It's the cat. It's right there. It's
There we
right
go.
there. Money goes two
Okay.
places. And so your cash flow is either consumed, which means it's gone forever. I don't care if it's 60% to taxes, or if it's on a latte, or if it's your kid's college, whatever. A dollar lost is a dollar gone. It's never going to grow. It's never going to be controlled by you ever again. Okay. Or money can be saved, and that could be invested, that could be multiplied. And so this tool simply takes cash flow, which is money coming in, and says how much money you're consuming, and then how much money are you saving, and what assumption are we having with that saved money. And it shows you exactly when you're going to run out of money, or if you're not going to run out of money. And so if we scroll a little bit down, you're going to see a green line, and this green line represents your current standard of living. And so what that means is if you're let's say making $100,000 and you're saving 10%, that means your $90,000 is being consumed. That means your $90,000 is what's essentially needing to live your life, whether it's taxes and all these other things. And then we include inflation, and that's that 3% assumption or 2% assumption that essentially means your dollar today is going to get less and less valuable. And so that green line represents your current standard of living today. So 30 years from now, you need to consume a whole lot more just because of inflation, and that's powerful for so many people. And then if you scroll down a little bit more, the red line represents your current life today and shows ultimately what your future, I hate the word retirement, but retirement will look like. And we would include social security, you would include any other cash flowing assets. And then ultimately, if the red line drops off from the green line, that means there's a gap. And in many cases, that gap is real. And so often people have to make dramatic changes to their life because they're not maintaining their current standard of living. So with that, let's
Right.
go
And then
up.
even if basically what you're saying is that, let's say you're still getting the same amount of money in the door, right?
Yep,
But it's worth less and less and less, and you're not able to buy the same amount with it.
yep,
So it's just, you know, it drops off entirely.
that's right. So if we go up on the tool, um, let's and we're just gonna play this example. You know where it says your income sources, where it talks about amount and annual
Hmm.
increase. Let's just play along. So Faith, I'm gonna have you just be a typical person, okay? And we're going to say that you're 25 years old, and we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you're going to work till age 65. So talk to me about what salary you would like to make at 25 years old, and it could be a generous one. I'm this is just for an example, obviously.
Well, if I'm 25 years old, I doubt I'm making more than 50,000. But
Okay.
if I'm, older, then you'd like to be making more than that for sure.
Well, we can. By the way, we can change the example. What age example would you like us to use? Because I just wanted to show how customizable this tool is. Because I would love everyone that's watching this to do this. Because I think they're going to
Okay,
learn so much.
let's say I'm guessing that a lot of people on this are not going to be 25. So
Yep.
let's say maybe 35. Okay,
Okay.
that's,
Okay.
that's probably going to be more general. All right.
Okay.
Um,
And
and
what age
let's
income?
say $60,000.
Perfect.
All
And so one of
right.
the
I'm just saying, like,
assumptions,
this is what I would imagine is kind of an
right?
average, you know.
And so one of the assumptions that we're going to make, and we don't have to make this, but we're gonna assume that you get a 3% increase each year. Now, for some people, that's not true. For others, it might be a understatement. Okay,
Mhm.
but what we're essentially going to say is year one, you're making 60,000. Year two, you're making 60,000 with a 3% increase, and ongoing. Okay. Now, we're going to plan on retirement at 65 for now. And at 35, how much money do you have initially saved at this point? In this example, it could be zero, it could be 100,000, it could be, I think in this, it's 10,000. How much money at 35 do you think someone has currently saved up?
Well, I mean, I think that's just so, I mean, some people don't have any, and like you said, some people might have 100,000 already. So let's just kind of, we can always do this. We can always do a couple examples.
Right.
But the beauty about this is you can plug in your numbers
That's
and
right.
then start to see like how stuff goes. So, let's maybe say, let's say we want them to save 10,000 a year.
Perfect.
Too
Which
And they
by the way,
already
is
have
a whole lot
10,000
more
saved.
than, yeah, which $10,000 is a whole lot more than 10%. So if we were going to do 10%, it would be 6,000.
All right,
And
let's do 6,000
let's
then.
do 6,000 because
Let's
a
do
lot of people say
6,000.
they've 10% first. And so we're also going to be generous and say we're going to include 3% inflation just overall. And what kind of rate of return would you like to bet your financial future on? We have it at 7. You could change that to 12. You could change that to 4. It's all customizable.
I
It
mean,
can be customized.
I know I can get 8% on liquid
Okay,
money,
then
so
put 8%.
but not everybody, you got to know the secrets of how to do that. So I'm not going to bet that everybody can do
Right.
that.
You and I both know that that not everyone can do that consistently. And then we also have when you hit retirement, we have a more conservative number too. Just again, model. You can model whatever you want. That's the benefit of
Okay, well,
this.
I'm curious to see what this comes out as, and
Okay.
then go back in and maybe
So
tweak the numbers of like what I think I could get. which
So
is different.
the other thing that we need to add, if you add income sources, we
Hmm.
need to add Social Security. Now, again, some people are like, Caleb, Social Security is not going to be around. Well, it's up to you, but I think there will be some kind of program around. So let's put in this example. Let's put $30,000.
30,000 a year in Social
Yep,
Security?
yep. And you can always
Is
get your
that
exact
typical?
numbers. Let's do an annual increase of 2%.
Okay.
And then let's start at age 67.
Okay. Age
And
67.
then let's take that to age 100 because this calculator goes out to age 100. And
All
then, for
right.
instance, if you had other real estate or if you had any other cash flowing assets, you could continue to add an income source because, and this tool also shows the power of cash flow. So let's do this. Let's hit calculate and let's see if the
Okay.
red line is on the green line. Okay. So what this is showing is that this calculation, remember, we're not being emotional here. This is just what the inputs are saying and what the output's going to happen. So in this scenario, this person saved 10% of their money. They got 7%, never had a down year, and
Mm-hmm.
they're also assuming that they're going to continue to make more money, and so they're actually saving a whole lot more than 6% because their savings ratio is keeping up. But this person runs out of money at age 74. Now you can see that the red line doesn't drop all the way off because this is showing Social Security, but you can see that major gap. Now go back to $10,000 and we'll see what increasing savings does. No, go back to the amount saved per year.
Okay. Let's do this again.
So one
Help
reality
this
is
person
simple, and if you
out.
just hit enter,
Calculate.
boom. So it does something. Now puts it all the way to age 80, 81.
Right? So you
Um,
get an extra 6 years if you're doing that.
let's see if you can get 12% rate of return. You could do that. Um,
I'm betting we can get a little better return after retirement.
okay.
Don't you
So
think?
that's the power of this. That's the power of this thing.
I like this. This is fun.
The other thing is showing the
What?
power of cash flow. Where we have a lot of real estate investors that we show them that boom. Okay,
Woohoo!
let's take the 12. So that's what I'm saying is like this tool is available to show you number one what's going on. But I tell you, most people that go through this, number one, they're shocked. They're not shocked about how inflation works. They're shocked about how all this stuff works. But then through efficiency, through consistency, through use, we're balancing people's models and then people know what's going on. And then the cool thing is it's one thing to balance your model. It's another thing, 3 years. Let's see if you're actually getting 12%. Because you could put whatever you want, but if you're getting 5%, we need some accountability. Or
Right.
you might be
Yeah.
getting
So if it's not tracking this, you put in what you're really getting
right.
and you say, okay, I need to make some adjustments. I need to change what I'm invested in. I need to
Yep,
figure this out. Maybe I need to add more money that I'm putting
that's right.
aside. Right.
So
So,
this
but
is
you can
this is
track it with this, which is awesome. I
we
love this.
yeah, we use a high powered tool, this 2-line graph, and it's obviously we put everyone's financial, like we can play any scenario. We can play put paying college, we can put getting disabled, we can put losing your job, we can get a pay raise, and it's so powerful because everything can be modeled. Everything can be modeled. And so it's extremely powerful. We've made this available for free because I just want people to get that concept. But yeah, this is a practical tool that people can go to, and I just would recommend going and seeing for yourself because it might spark the need to be like, hey, I need to talk to Faith. I need to talk to these people at Better Wealth. I need to actually get educated because what I'm currently doing is not going to end up well. And unfortunately, a lot of people hear this too late, and I'm telling you, it's never too late. But the younger you are, and even if you're an entrepreneur, let's get really dialed in on what's important. And so with that, I'm really grateful that
Yeah.
we got to walk through this.
Okay, I'm sitting here playing around with it, but definitely everybody go and start using this calculator. I actually jimmied something together, just you doing the calculations in my head and then using regular old calculators to help people figure this out. But now I know that this is here. This is awesome, right? Because then you can say, okay, well, if I own an investment property and I make $300 a month on that, right? Then I can add another income stream, etc.
Yep.
And I like that this allows you to put in factor in, say, okay, Social Security, this is what I might get each year.
Yep.
You can, yeah, this is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, because
Great
take
tool.
off Social Security.
Hmm.
Let's just remove that and let's see what happens. I mean, I don't know if you want to hit calculate. Like, yeah, so it's like it's not terrible, but it's like you can model what a real. So here's the
Right. So even if you say, hey, maybe we won't have Social Security,
yeah,
right? You'll be able to take a look. This is what happens if that gets cut off, right?
right.
And you'll at least be able to foresee something about your
And
future.
and here's the other thing is people and remember when I said there's no such thing as a good or bad thing? So an annuity triggers a lot of people, right? Some people, you can actually look at what an annuity can do. It for some people, it may improve their model based on what they're doing. For others, it could be like, why would I surrender, give up control of my money? So it's like it's a way to start modeling what people are doing. I just want to also point out how many people do you know that are actually saving 16% of their income?
Right.
Unfortunately, I wish that was more of a thing. Um,
Yeah.
and
But
then
you know what I like about this is that a lot of times people don't save because they don't know what to do with it
that's
anyway.
right.
And they don't
You're spot
see
on.
the clear vision of the goal, right? So like why should I save it if I have no idea what to do with it? It's just going to sit in the bank
That
account, right?
you're spot
So
on.
when you have this model and you understand, okay, this is why I'm saving, this is how much I have to save, and this is how much interest I need to be making, this is what my rate of return
Yep.
needs to be on it, then you have all your parameters and you can go out and look
That's
for
right.
the right things to do with that money.
That's right.
That's why this is so important.
Yep.
Otherwise
So
you're
that's
just sitting there blind, hiding your eyes,
yep.
trying to like say, I don't want to look, I don't want to look because I'm so
Yep.
scared,
And
because I don't know what
and
to do about it.
unfortunately, so many people are getting pitched things and they if you don't understand the whole picture, be very careful. And that's what you discovered as you were working with your mom and they're like, "Wow, people are pitching things, but they don't even know what's going on." And
Hmm.
so this model is going to change the game and our clients love it and we're our big picture goal is to make this available so that whether people work with us or not they can have a model that they can determine what kind of financial decisions you can make because this is a very stripped down version but overall it's what it's turning into is something very exciting.
Right. So what if you're like, okay, see, now maybe you don't want to retire at 65.
Hu-
Maybe you want to retire
well
at 50,
but
right?
go down and change the working age to. So that's a good question. That's this is I'm see, I love the curiosity. You and I are so similar. So go down
Okay.
to the working person and change that to 50.
Okay, so stop age.
Yeah.
Okay, let's change that to 50.
And then
And
it
let's
looks like you're
change,
saved. Oh yeah.
let's say we're making a bit more money for the sake of it. All right.
So that's 100,000.
Yeah. So let's
100,000 and you're saying you're saving half of that?
um yeah, well, what should we say here? 20,000?
Yeah,
Let's say
let's say
20,000.
20,000.
But
You're
the truth is, if you make 100,000, you can save more.
yes.
You know. Okay. So that's not going to work.
Well, and we don't have social security, but
Oh, right.
but
We
the
haven't put in Social Security. Let's add Social Security
and
in.
and by the way, this shows the power of compounding and also by making $100,000, this we're getting now really advanced into math. The more money you make, $80,000, that is a big consumption. Like that's a lot more money that's a bigger nut that we need to crack. So a lot of times people think when they make more money, they're going to be good. Well, you know, it's
Yeah.
so yeah, it's
But it still doesn't work because you're consuming more. So
yes.
how can you change the consumption amount?
Well, you need to save more because money either goes two places. It's consumed or it's saved. So you could save more, which essentially means you're consuming less. You could make a greater rate of return. You could get cash flowing assets. I mean, one thing that this tool points out is retiring early without and just relying on your assets as the typical traditional way, you're going to get disappointed because
Mm-hmm.
what does Robert Kiyosaki say? Savers are losers. A lot of times because it's hard at this point someone's so hover over at 65, hover over that red line. Just yeah, like at 65. Okay. At 68, you need to be consuming, this is huge. You need to be consuming $191,000. That represents $80,000 today. So at 35, your $80,000 of consumption is, or now $70,000 of consumption. At 69 is 191,000.
And this is because of inflation, and this is what we don't calculate in.
That's right. Now, the other thing, this is what this tool's not showing, is some people might say, Caleb, I don't want to maintain, like, I will reduce my lifestyle. You have the
Right.
choice, you have the freedom to
That
do
was
that.
my question. Like, how can you reduce that?
Well, you have to talk to us. We this the fact of the matter is we have this powerful tool and we're currently working on getting the whole thing to the public. At this point, we're getting the concept. But yes, you should be able to model a ton of scenarios. This is just a very basic version, because it gets a very complicated real quick. But it just shows you the power of this. And I would encourage people to go here. And also if you want to learn more,
Woohoo!
yeah, talk to someone on our team, and just know that, like, everyone's in a little bit different situation, and this is just the X-ray. This is just a snapshot of what's going on. The strategy is what helps you actually optimize, because 10%, we're making an assumption that you can earn 10%. Faith, I know you can do that. There's some people watching this that are going, I can't do that. Well, then they need to talk to an expert that could teach them how
Exactly.
to do that.
Exactly. And if you're looking at these numbers and you're saying, well, that's not realistic, to make that kind of percentage and other stuff like that, it is. People out there are doing it, and they don't need to have like, millions of dollars to do it.
That's
But you
right.
just need to talk to the right people who can show you
That's right.
how that works. So it's not unattainable by any means. Cool. Well, this is great. I love this tool. I'm going to be telling all my ninjas about it to go
Amazing.
and use this to start getting their numbers even more accurate. I just gave them the quick and dirty using a calculator version for how to figure it out, but this is much better. I love it.
Awesome.
Okay,
Well,
so first step, go and look at this, figure this out, and then the next step is you start getting, this is helping you with your clarity, right? This
yeah,
is getting clear on it. And then the next step is, once you know what you're looking for, you can start looking at saying, okay, well then what type of investments? How do I gain more efficiency? How do I, become more efficient with my taxes and all of these other things? So
right.
phenomenal. Okay. Okay, well, thank you, Caleb. This was terrific. And so, where can people go? I mean, obviously, I just showed them your website.
Yeah.
Um, and so, basically, if people are interested, your company also does. I mean, this is not a sales thing, but if people want to know where to go, your
Yep.
company does. They do both financial coaching, and
Yep.
actually they have the investment platform.
Right,
So
and
people
one of
can
the things that
actually
I just
do
wanna
these type
say
of
is
investments.
we are giving our whole X-ray process as a bonus to Mike and anyone that wants to go further here. It's my gift to him. It's like people can come to us and we can work with them, or they can get an incredible free bonus as a part of the summit. And so, yeah, Better Wealth is where you can learn more about the book. We have a podcast and a YouTube channel and all that stuff. And I just wanted to say how grateful I am to be a part of here. And I want to go back. Intentional living is everything. We can get caught up in the tool, we can get caught up in the strategy. But if you can't answer what intentional living looks like, do the hard work today to figure that out. And if there's anything that I can do for you, Faith, or anybody else that is watching this, I will do it in a heartbeat. So thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much, Caleb. This was phenomenal. And like I said, go out and look for the experts that are really doing it, and the people who are not just stuck in the traditional model, not just, let's keep putting you guys in mutual funds and, CDs and all this sort of stuff, right? I mean, there's lots of really cool, interesting things out there, that you can find if you just get curious,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
And get help when you need it. And even if you think, okay, can I only save maybe 10,000 to start with? That might be all you get to save. Maybe it's only 5,000 that year, but each year that can go up, right? You're not stuck with that. So just, once you get into the game of it and you get excited about it and it becomes fun for you, then that incentivizes you to do even more. So
Right.
that's what I've been discovering. And it's been becoming fun for me, something that I was always scared of and uh, avoided. And now I'm like, ooh, cool. Look what I can do here. So, it can actually become fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a blast. So
All right. Well, thank you so much, Caleb. We really appreciate you coming on. We're going to have links to his stuff here as well. And woohoo! Intentional living. Let's do it.
thank you so much.